ARRL Southwestern Division Chairman, and DXer and Norton Expeditions, and we appreciate him coming down from the LA area tonight to be with us. So give him a warm round of applause as we welcome him.
Thank you, Ed. As everyone knows, the ARRL is the National Organization for Amateur Radio in the USA. We have about 165,000 members, up from a low maybe 10 years ago of 140. We're back up almost to whatever peak we had, so somehow we're doing reasonably well there. If you go listen on the air, and the kind of people that are actually active in ham radio, about 2 out of every 3 are actually ARRL members. I encourage people to support the league. We do represent hams to the government, as you'll see in my talk. The league is run by 15 directors. I'm one of them. I'm elected by the people in Southern California and Arizona. Every 3 years there's an election. 10 people can nominate anybody to run. If there's more than one nominee, there'll be an election. This is my 4th term. I started in 2005, and for those of you who don't know, my predecessor was Art Goddard, W6XD. Art and I were college roommates for 3 years. He was vice director for about 9 or 12 years. He was director for 1 term, and the bastards ran him down. I spent a lot of time trying to talk him into running again. He spent a lot of time trying to talk me out of running. We both failed, and this is the result. Anyhow, one of the things I do every field day is go around and visit a bunch of field days. And this year it was San Diego. I hadn't been here in about 5 years. Dropped by and talked to Joe, and we had some kind of conversation. If you're ever desperate for a club speaker, let me know, and I guess he's desperate enough, and here I am. About 100 years and 4 months ago, the ARRL was formed by Hiram Percy Maxson and Clarence Tuska, basically in West Hartford, Connecticut. So we just had our 100th anniversary. There was a convention in Hartford, Connecticut. I was there. I don't know, were any of the rest of you there? Mike Maston, who I don't see here, was actually there. Fortunately, you'll have another convention coming up a lot closer. Same idea, you know, people in there, there's talks, there's exhibitors, there's getting together and talking to other hams. So I hope you, I encourage everybody to support the convention. I think our national convention was a success as far as what happened. I'm kind of the guy who watches after the finances of the league to some extent, to the woe of some of the people that are actually the employees that run things. And it was a great success, other than maybe it cost a lot more than I think it should have. But anyhow, in another 100 years, hopefully they'll figure out how to do it. Let's see, about in the 1960s, Barry Goldwater was a senator from Arizona. He was actually the Republican Party candidate for president against John Kennedy, and he came in second in that election. Barry Goldwater was a ham, K7UGA, and one of the benefits the hams got out of Barry being a powerful political figure in Washington is we got something passed called PRB1. It basically, the FCC has some kind of statement saying that communities have to reasonably accommodate amateur radio and pass minimal rules to do that. And that's been a very important thing in keeping us to have the ability to put up antennas. When I started as a kid, a long time ago, I mean, there weren't anti-antenna regulations and big regulations about putting towers and beams up. People just put them up. And, you know, I built a transmitter on a couple of pieces of wood and got a receiver and ran a wire from my bedroom window out to a pole in the backyard, and you know, that was the ham radio to me for a number of years. Life has changed somewhat. Do any of you live in deed-restricted communities where you have problems putting up antennas? Not too many here, but okay, about half a dozen maybe. We still have that issue, and we're going to get to that. Because of PRB1, essentially, the hams were able to overcome what happened in Poway. About a year, or a little over a year and a half ago, I got notified by the hams in Poway that they were going to try to get permission for the city to put up antennas. Poway almost outlawed ham radio. It had a $711 application fee for putting up an antenna. That's an application fee. That doesn't mean you get granted permission to do it. And what kind of antenna was that? About a 2-meter whip, you know, like this high. That's $711. And so I went down to a Saturday breakfast meeting they had with the mayor, and I sat across the table for him for an hour, and we talked. And one of my stories was, well, you know, I was a little kid, and I built this little transmitter on pieces of wood and ran a wire to the back of the lot to a little pole. And I said, you know, I think your antenna ordinance inadvertently swept my kind of antenna in with the ones that you were trying to regulate. And his reply to me was, I don't think it was inadvertent. And I go, I don't think this is going to be an easy sell. And at that point, I mean, I really actually thought, well, the hams would have to sue Poway in court to get anywhere. Well, the Poway amateurs were relentless. They organized well. They had one-on-one meetings with all the city councilmen as well as the mayor. They went to city council meetings. They presented their case. They did it well. They came up with a scientific analysis of what kind of antennas were needed to do something. And as you have all heard, a week and a half or so ago, the Poway City Council passed a new antenna regulation ordinance, which basically says up to 65 feet, all you need is a building permit. You don't have to get any special permit to do this, as long as you put the thing in and it's not going to fall over, and you have a big enough concrete base if you're putting up a tower. You just pay for the building permit, just like if you added a room onto your house or something like that. In addition, small antennas on the roof and low other antennas are permitted as well, essentially. There's some little fine print there, but that's a major victory. It's sort of, to me, astounding that given the attitude that was shown to me a little over a year ago, that it got passed, and it got passed unanimously, with the mayor casting a positive vote at the last minute when he had saw the other 4 councilmen had voted for it, and he stuck his hand up, figured which way the wind was blowing. He's a politician, he's not stupid or anything, and yes, he says, and so it's passed 5-1. They have some kind of a official deal where it has to really get passed a second time, and that happens pretty soon. Everybody expects it to be on a consent agenda and just zip through. So that's Poway is an example of how PRB1 and everything ended up allowing antennas to go where we have had issues before. Those of you who have been looking at the ARRL website or are on the ARRL Southwestern Division email list, I send out emails very infrequently that talks about something of interest to all the hams in the Southwestern Division, and I sent one out about 2 weeks ago, and the first part of it was, please write a letter to your congressman supporting H.R. 4946, which is a bill we have introduced in the Congress and the House of the United States. And it basically says we're trying to get homeowners associations and CCNRs to not totally forbid ham radio antennas. And what that exactly means we'll end up with, I'm not sure. But we have a situation, just like I talked about before, with a ham in Congress. Greg Walden, W7EQI from Oregon, is a ham. And he's chairman of a committee that has to do something with the FCC. So as far as that goes, he's got some amount of juice. And we're, kind of trying to work with him to get this through. So if any of you have any contact or knowledge of a House of Representatives member and would be willing to write a letter or even go talk to the guy when he comes back for a recess into his office around here, please do so and let me know, or Vice Director Marty Wohl, N6AA. We accompany you to the office and try to make a little pitch. If we get enough co-sponsors of this, it may go somewhere. I still don't think it's, don't hold your breath and bet a lot of money that it's going to happen. But if we don't try, it's not going to. So that's kind of a major thing the League is undertaking at the present time. Given that this is the 100th year anniversary of the League, we've kind of had a little celebration. As I said, we've had a convention. There's on-the-air activities. You may remember W1AW is the call sign of the ARRL headquarters station in Newington, Connecticut. And if you pay attention in the past, a lot of times when there's a convention like in San Diego or Los Angeles, they get permission to use W1AW Portable 6 as the convention call sign to attract attention. And this year what's happened because of the 100th anniversary, we're putting the call sign out to all 50 states, and each one will be active for 2 weeks. California has already done one a couple of months ago, and there'll be another coming up. And so a bunch of stations in California will be active using the call. K6NA in Valley Center near Escondido ran the effort last time. And the stations on the air are usually big contest stations with big beams that can talk all over the world, so that people all over the world have an opportunity to do this. But it's been an unbelievably interesting, has gathered an unbelievable amount of interest among hams. You turn on the bands and where they were dead a year ago, now W1AW Portable 0 or something comes on and there's just mobs calling them and people having fun. The League also has a QSO party where you're supposed to work with members and section communication managers and directors and employees of the League and past presidents and whatnot. That's going on. It has some amount of interest has been gathered as far as that goes. As far as something that is going to be permanent, I don't know that we're really actually doing anything different other than trying hard to get this homeowners association situation a little more favorable toward the amateurs. Other than that, the convention is coming up. You've heard you save a couple dollars if you pre-register tonight. And at this time, why don't I just throw it out to the group? Are there any questions you have, suggestions, criticisms?
I have a question about the Poway hams. Sure. They made it sound like they always have to take out a permit to erect an antenna. That's only for 65 feet, right?
If you put up a tower, that's an actual tower, you have to get a building permit. I think it's over 35 feet. I'm not sure if it's below 35 feet, you still need one. But they can't turn you down because they don't like, your neighbor doesn't like towers or something like that. The neighbor thinks that she's going to get poisoned from RF. Incidentally, that brings me up to the story. I live in Topanga, and in Topanga we have the anti-smart meter lady. Smart electric meters have been installed in Topanga, and before they came in, she erupted and created a lot of stir trying to get them stopped, and that they impact her health, and she wears a wig made of like metal fibers, and they cover the back of her head and the top of her head. And I've always wondered why the rays don't go in the front of her face and get her, but that doesn't work. And I've actually got another group in Hollywood that I kind of am associated with called the Center for Inquiry, who would have been interested in testing me. I mean, if any of these people were ever tested and could be found that they could actually detect radiation by their own bodies without hidden radios in their pocket, I mean, this would turn the world upside down. And of course, none of them will agree to be tested, except once in a while some of them have. And then, of course, they don't get shown that they can detect the information, and then they go on the website and blog that the university that tested us doesn't know what they're doing, and it's all wrong, and we're still going to get killed off, and life goes on. So we do have that kind of issue, and some people use that kind of argument when arguing against ham radio antennas. We had that happen in Palmdale about 5 years ago. WP6X actually got a permit to put up a tower. He followed everything. He put the tower up, the neighbors erupted, and they created a lot of noise, and the city council somehow listened to them, and they ordered him to take his tower down, even though he had paid a building permit and put it all up. And it went through a nasty court fight, and in the end, I don't know that the hams actually won, although Palmdale's antenna ordinance got thrown out. Palmdale spent, I don't know, between $250,000 and $500,000 on legal fees, and the assistant city attorney that pushed all this got fired. So I don't know whether anybody won